And then he said, on every day there's a fallen kingdom. Oh, because the darkness stands for doubt or disbelief. So these are all the paradoxes within creation. Um, Originally there was just light, but then when darkness was created, then that gave the potential for doubt and disbelief. Does that make some sense?
Um, I thought darkness was the absence of light. You're saying he said that Hashem created darkness.
Well, we see darkness, but maybe, it's absence of light, and doubt is absence of of insight into, the meaning behind something, or lack of belief is we're getting in our own way.
I
So
get it. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, thank you.
yeah. Okay. So and waters, lower, you have the higher waters and the lower waters, and there was and that stands for human wisdom. And I'd have to like review it and take notes. I didn't, I'm presenting it to you guys in an imperfect way. We know about the fruit trees. I explained that the trees themselves were not edible. It ended up being the fruit that was edible. Um, and that stands for nature as home. And it could be like a screen where, where we don't see the creator behind it. And human wisdom also has limitations. So, and then the moon was diminished. Originally, the moon and the sun were supposed to be equal lights, and the moon became a reflecting light. And then he talked about day 5, the fish and the birds, and that stands for. He said that there's a midrash that says that there was a female monster, sea monster, that was slayed, and a male sea monster that was castrated. He didn't explain it, but he said that stands for imagination, which could be positive or could be negative. And then day 6, he said there was the first woman that was created who was rejected, and that's the day that we had the chet hadat, the sin of the tree of knowledge, and and that corresponds to feminism and humanism, which needs rectification. So all of these things here, doubt, disbelief, human wisdom, nature as home, equality, imagination, feminism, and humanism, are all things that we have to work on to rectify.
What's the first woman, Lilith?
Yeah, yeah. And then he brings it over here and he talks about modernity. Modernity is in love with the dark, and it doesn't take a lot of imagination. All you have to do is turn on a TV show, or read a popular novel. There's in theology, the current theology is atheism and scientific materialism. Philosophy says that existence precedes essence. Psychology, there's a discovery of a base subconscious, but it doesn't go past that. In culture, and this is like so positive, so clear, there's this fascination with evil. So these are all things that we're surrounded by, that we're being called upon to address in our own service to Hashem and our own ability to respond to the world around us, which is so overwhelming. And he says the way to respond to this idea of everything, this obsession with evil. He said it has a positive root, that you have this tendency of people to say everything's fine, hakol tov, gamzu latova, but it's a naive and it's not a deep optimism. And when people take that point of view of saying everything's fine and deny that there's actually suffering, then what happens is they either go into a depression or they start to blame themselves or other people, and there's always a reaction to that. And the
That's
work
really
that
interesting. I like that. No, it's yes, yeah. Okay, we can talk about that another time, but yeah, that was really
no,
interesting.
go ahead, say, talk about it. Tell me,
No,
tell me what
no,
you.
I think that's so interesting. Like I've heard people feel like you have to say, oh, everything's amazing, Baruch Hashem, and it's like, well, it feels sort of like, if sometimes like it feels fake, so it's just like you feel guilty or you're not supposed to because everything should be amazing, like everything from Hashem, and it's not human to be like that. So it's just interesting that he said that. So anyway, I like
Right.
that.
Right. And in fact, the service that we have to do is taking this naive optimism and replacing it with a recognition of the struggles and of these falls that all these different spheres are going through, and embracing what is, with faith and with connection to each other and to Hashem and to God, with connection to God, um, even if we don't understand it, and trying to understand what we can, but we can still be optimistic. And today was a hard day because of what happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday, or it was last night, and we got the news this morning. And it was particularly hard for me. Especially, I looked at a picture of that young couple, the Israeli
I didn't.
couple.
Sorry, I didn't see. I didn't see what happened.
There was a terrorist attack in Washington, D.C. in
Oh
front
my
of an
God.
event
Oh my
that
God.
was held by a Jewish organization. And
And
two,
it was two
um,
two workers at the museum, and they were engaged. And the picture of them was so I hate to say optimistic. He had just bought her a ring, and their future lay ahead of them, and it kind of epitomized I don't know, good versus evil.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. No, I didn't know. Okay, thank you.
yeah, and it's it's very, very shocking. Um, they were planning to go next week to Israel too, and he was going to propose to her, and they were going to celebrate their engagement.
Ay.
Yeah.
Upside down is that the darkness itself could be transformed into light.
Okay, so he talks about suppression and transformation. And in suppression, which is called itkafia, we reject the dark that strength and we strengthen the light. And idhavcha is darkness itself can be transformed into light. And this is from Ecclesiastes, from Echa, where Shlomo HaMelech said, "I found that wisdom is superior to folly, as light is superior to darkness." So this is specifically about our service of suppressing and rejecting the dark is what regular people do. We have to we see it, we experience it, it's thrown at us, we reject it, and when we reject it, we embrace the light. So the same way that if you're like me and you like certain kinds of food and it's not good for you, so you'll say, I still like it and I still want it, but I'm going to reject it because it's not healthy for me. Idhavcha is transformation, and he said this is the work of completely righteous people, of tzaddikim. And in this, darkness itself can be transformed into light, where they can actually perceive the darkness being transformed into light. And that would be that, let's say it was a donut or it was a pizza or whatever it was, that for years and years and years I had this inclination to overeat it. It was potato chips at one point, whatever it was. In this small example, I was able to stop desiring it. And in that sense, in that specific, very small area for certain foods, I was able to overcome a transformation where I didn't desire it. But in here, it would actually be grasping and viewing the darkness and actually seeing the light through the darkness. And only very, very holy people can do that. Then, I could suggest that you guys, just kind of talk about, how that applies to your experience. If there's something that you've been able to suppress, or if you're thinking about this idea of transformation, if you have a reaction like, this is like completely off the wall, I don't understand it. I mean, please, I invite you to comment and to reflect on what I'm saying.
No, I totally food. I think all of us, not many of us, have that sense that you describe of craving certain things, whether they're sugar or carbs, or but and I've been trying to will myself to intermittent fasting, or at least, so what I thought was that I would just extend the period of time in which I don't eat. Like if I eat breakfast at 8:30, I can extend, instead of eating lunch at 12, I could extend lunch to 1. But so I'm not sure if that's the way to go. Maybe it's like cold turkey. And sometimes in Yiddishkeit, it's better to just do it. And even procrastination is something else I'm working on. I clearly procrastinate, and I can focus, I can do it, and I can catch myself. So it's a challenge and a struggle.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's amazing that you've been able to curb those cravings, because I think that, like the whole idea, I understand, is, we want to take something that's negative, obviously, like that we do, and replace it with something healthier. So it's just like, because a
Mhm.
lot of times if people don't realize it, they can replace one bad thing just with another, but but that's amazing. So what did you replace it with when that craving comes? Do you, like, do you, like, does it not come anymore? Or you're just able to stave it off?
No, I don't. So what I did was I started practicing intuitive eating, and in the early months, several months of practicing intuitive eating, I gave myself permission to eat what I wanted, and then pay attention to whether or not I still wanted it. And when you restrict yourself, as far as food is concerned, when you restrict yourself within permitted foods, and we're not talking about non-kosher food, but when you restrict yourself, there's a part that rises up and says, "Well, I want it more." So, so
Yeah.
I would say, okay, you want to eat chips, go ahead and eat chips, and and notice whatever my emotions are, and it took quite a while, but then my body also talked to me, and I started listening to my body, and my body
Right.
said, this is not good for you. This, you're having problems digesting it, and it'd be better not
Directly
to do
after.
that.
Yeah, yeah, right. Oh, that's amazing. No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah, because it's the restricting that with food, it's the restricting that really it really leads to the problems. But then we're not talking about just allowing yourself without any kind of awareness.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's balancing the kindness and the strictness and the restraint, and observing what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing. Right. It's really paying attention, you're saying, and just,
yeah,
yeah. Because we,
yeah,
we, we, we cannot, we can, right. I mean, the mindful eating is trying to do that, to really not always be in such a rush, so to get to the next thing. So yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's still a work in progress. It's,
100%. It's always a work in progress.
right,
Always,
right.
always, always. Yeah.
So how might we take this metaphor of eating to that bigger point of what do we do about all these things that are surrounding us that are overwhelming us with such as this. For me, the draw to evil is so strong. I feel it, like I I'll watch something or I'll read something, and then afterwards I'll say, I really didn't need that. Or, um, even just watching the news, like over and over again, watching the news. And if we don't modify that exposure to darkness with also exposure to light, then it can be very, very traumatic. And there's no way to overcome it as long as we keep exposing ourselves to darkness without replacing it with learning Torah and authentic connection to each other and recognizing the goodness that Hashem gives us.
I agree with everything you say, because it's just like, because it's hard. Like when, that's why I stopped watching the news, and that's why, I didn't know about what happened in Washington. Then I hear it, and it's just like, it's just to stop myself from going down that rabbit hole of, it just, well, the rabbit hole of this is just too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So taking this concept of what we were talking about, of visualizing light, and I did this with Meir Ranan, that we would visualize light and go and and go to light. Now it's very hard for me to visualize light, because what is light? It's not fire. It's not, it's not a light bulb. So in order to visualize light, we have to find a way to connect to that. Um, so um, so I think what we can do is we can, and it says over here, the best time to do these practices is early in the morning or late at night, before the energy of your environment has been soiled with coming and going and stresses and stuff, or late in the evening when you're preparing for sleep. And if it's hard to conjure up images to use, you can use your senses. So we could visualize ourselves in front of somebody who's a tzaddik, like in front of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Or we could visualize ourselves or sense an experience that is with people in a very spiritual or holy experience. He says, for example, you're visualizing yourself standing at the Western Wall. We did this practice, and the feel of your feet and fingers touching the cold stones, and a particular taste in your mouth. You can go for not just seeing. You can also go for tasting and hearing. And so he says, what to do is open your eyes and look at the image once it is faded from your mind's eye. And then, okay, so you could choose an image, or you could choose a sound. And nigunim are very good for this. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I think this is Okay, so we can do this meditation. And based on any of the things that I talked about, or anything that you want to, you can use one of your senses to add visualization to the breath, and add going toward light and Torah and Emet, even though there is a sense of the paradox of so much inclination toward darkness, particularly during today's times. Before we start, does anybody have any requests or something they want to ask? Or
No, I'm good.
okay, so let's see if I'm going to turn the recording off.